There recently was a news that Persian has been declared a classical language in India. So in this video, we'll talk about what exactly are these classical languages, why Persian has been declared a classical language, in what context it is a classical language, and where else in the constitution do we see about languages, and we'll also talk about official language. So this is an important video for your preparation. But first, why was Persian declared as a classical language? So this is the reason. In the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos, Switzerland, do remember this thing, that in Davos, Switzerland is the office of World Economic Forum, and there are regular meetings regarding whatever they want to talk about, world economy or all that thing, right? Also remember the name of the person who is head of this World Economic Forum, that is Klaus Schwab. Now, moving forward, so what happened in this World Economic Forum meeting is that our Foreign Affairs Minister, Mr. S Jaishankar, he met the Foreign Affairs Minister of Iran. Yes, this smiling person, the same person that we met recently in another video. This one where he is talking to Pakistan's caretaker Prime Minister, Mr. Kakkar, almost at the same time when Iran was conducting strikes on Pakistan. Of course, after that, Pakistan has reciprocated, and now, it has conducted strikes in Iran's Baluchistan province, killing some people. But as Salman Khan once famously said, apna kya lena dena. And as far as I am concerned, जी भर के लड़ो, समाप्त कर दे एक दूसरे को, क्योंकि हमने जो पढ़ना था क्लैट के लिए वो तो पढ़ लिया, इसके बाद में हमसे क्या लेना देना. The first thing, what are classical languages? These are basically declared as classical languages by Government of India. और कुछ definition नहीं है. Basically, these have been declared by Government of India, and it started in 2004 when Tamil was declared as the first classical language. That was during, of course, UPA times. Now, after that, they have declared a lot many languages. They have actually declared 6 languages. The names are written here. 2005 Sanskrit, 2008 Kannada and Telugu both were declared a classical language, and then Malayalam, and lastly Odia in 2014. So we have 6 classical languages, but Mr. Jaishankar said that it will be the 9th classical language that will be taught in India. Do understand one thing, there is a context there, and that context is National Education Policy 2020. Please do not call it New Education Policy. It is National Education Policy 2020, and these details matter if you are trying to be a lawyer. Now, these 6 languages plus Pali, Prakrit and Persian, right? Those are considered classical languages according to National Education Policy. It's a slim document, about 66 pages. It talks about how these 9 languages have to be taught to children in schools. So basically, it is not a classical language as per the definition of Government of India. It is a classical language as per the National Education Policy. Having said that, now we have to decide what exactly is the benefit of that and what exactly is a classical language. What is the criteria? कोई भी language classical language बन कैसे रही है? तो 2004 में when they introduced the concept in the parliament, they said some things about classical languages. Let us see what they said. The first thing they told is, okay, it should be of high antiquity. High antiquity is basically it should be an old language, 1500 or 2000 years history should be there. Ideally, I mean, they said 1500, 2000, but there are languages like 1000 years old, let us say Odia, which are also classical languages. Now, body of ancient literature, that is basically a valuable heritage cherished by generations of speakers. लंबी चौड़ी बात है, कुल मिला के बात इतनी है. It should have a body, a corpus of literature that is referred to, for example, in the common parlance. So let us say in Tamil or in Sanskrit, there is a body of literature that is cited, that is quoted by people to give examples. So that is cherished by generations, right? So this is the second thing. Third thing, the literary tradition should be original and should not be borrowed by any other speech community. Let us say there is a language called Esperanto. It won't be qualified to be a classical language for other reasons also, but also because most of the literature in Esperanto is actually translation from other languages. right? So it should have its own literature, not an imitation translation of other languages, other speech communities. Fourth thing, and this is a bit, I'll say abstract, it should be distinct from its historical tradition. So the historical language, the historical classical language and the modern language may be a bit different, right? This is a bit unclear, bit abstract, but let us ignore that and move forward. What exactly are the benefits? किसी को classical language बनाना ही क्यों है? Again, the government of India comes to our rescue. That too in the parliament, they told, first of all, that we have created two major international awards for classical languages. They have created a center of excellence for studies in classical languages. Now, in that answer, they don't tell why. So I found out this is actually at Mysore. There is a institution called Central Institute of Indian Languages, CIIL. So CIIL, where is it? It is in Mysore. Remember this thing. These are the kind of things they ask in your exam. Then professional chairs for classical languages in different universities, by they'll encourage the UGC or other universities that you should establish such and such chair. Chair is basically department. You start a department where you teach these languages or do research on these languages. So this is that. Next thing, we have to decide why Persian in India. So Persian has at least 1,000-year history in India, right? It came to India ironically not with Persians but with Muslims, Turk Muslims. Okay, so what happened is in 11th century Turkics started invading India. Who are these people? I am talking about Ghaznavi. Okay, Mahmud Ghaznavi, who was from Ghazna. It's a place. Similarly, after him we had Muhammad Ghori, that was in 12th century, and after that there was the establishment of what is called Delhi Sultanate and other such Muslim states, Turk Muslim states in India, who, despite being Turks, had their court language as Persian or Farsi. So they were Turks. Why were they speaking Farsi? Because Farsi was considered a cultured language in those times, right? And slowly, under the Mughals, this became not only a courtly language, but also the language of government. That is, all the government paperwork was being done in Persian language. So, even today, there is a saying in Hindi, हाथ कंगन को आरसी क्या? The next part is, पढ़े लिखे को फारसी क्या? Right? What does it mean? It means it's a self-evident truth. Let me explain. हाथ कंगन को आरसी या कंगन means a bracelet. If you have a bracelet in your hand, you do not need a mirror to look at it, right? Because it's in your hand, you can directly see it. Similarly, पढ़े लिखे को फारसी क्या? If you are an educated person, you do not need to be taught Farsi because you already know Farsi. That was the condition in Hindi heartland in North India, that educated person was considered educated in Farsi. So what happens today is, educated person, generally we think he is proficient in Hindi or English or other languages. At that time, Farsi was the language of administration. So educated people used to study Farsi. After Aurangzeb, Farsi declined a bit. Still, its influence remains. I'll talk about a few words, at least in Hindi and many other languages, that are from Persian or Farsi but still retained by us. Give you a simple example, sabzi. Sabzi is vegetable in Hindi. It's basically a Persian word. Similarly, any fruit, normal fruit we take, for example, seb, anar, ananas, angur, all of these are Persian words, Farsi terms, right? We have retained them. And then there are many other things. For example, we have daroga, zamanat, the legal terms. All of these are actually from Persian. So anyways, the influence also remains in terms of Urdu. Urdu is basically fat plus Hindi. What is fat? Fat is Farsi plus Arabic plus Turkic. Let us say Turkey, right? So Turkey, Arabic and Farsi words plus pre-existing Hindi is actually Urdu. There is no other language. It's not a separate language per se. It has a script, but spoken Urdu can be understood by Hindi speakers because of this reason. I mean, 70-80% of Urdu words are actually from Sanskrit. They are Tadbhav words directly taken from what is called Hindi language, right? Okay, influenced other languages also, like it influenced Hindi, it has also influenced, let us say, Marathi or Bangla or Kannada, other languages in India. So it has a very checkered history in India. Now talking about languages in the constitution. See, our constitution, the question of language in India is not new. It has been there at least since 1916. So what happened is in 1916, Home Rule League movement started, and it was started by Lokmanya Tilak. Right? This is something that I'll teach you in coming classes. Now, during the Home Rule League movement, Tilak said that we should have linguistic states. I recall a particular instance where he called somebody from Karnataka and said you should speak in Kannada, not in other languages because you are from Karnataka. And actually, for good governance, states should be created according to the linguistic communities living there. So anyways, after independence, we know that ultimately language-based states were created. We have Punjab because it speaks Punjabi, Karnataka because it speaks Kannada, Telugu states because they speak Telugu. Earlier it was single Andhra Pradesh. Now we have Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. We have Bengal, right? So if we leave the northern part, most of the states were actually created based on the language. So constitution also reflects it. For example, it has provisions for linguistic minorities. It talks about a special officer, let's call him a commissioner for linguistic minorities. There is also something called official language in India. There is a single one official language in India. There is a language of courts and scheduled languages. All these things are in the constitution. Let's talk about them one by one. First, linguistic minorities and their commissioner. So basically, the term minority is not defined in the constitution. If you read the constitution, it is not defined. It is mentioned multiple times. Okay. So for example, in Article 29, it says a section of the citizens residing in any part of the India having a distinct language, script or culture. So basically it talks about linguistic minorities, right? Where Article 29. Remember this. Then it has the right to conserve the culture, and for the same Article 350B, अभी कंजर्व करेंगे तो कोई चाहिए ना कंजर्व करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट अथॉरिटी. So it says they'll have a special officer for linguistic minorities. We have a commissioner for linguistic minorities. Currently, the post is occupied by Mr. Srinivas Danda. Okay, let's move forward. Official language. Article 343 in part 17 of the Constitution talks about official language. It tells us that the official language of the state, that is Indian Union, Government of India, shall be Hindi in Devanagari script, right? Language and script are different things. So it shall be Hindi in Devanagari script. States, however, can choose their own official languages. Not everybody knows Hindi. Not everybody is keen to learn Hindi. So Article 345, 46, 47, etc. talk about states can choose their own languages. When they talk to each other or with the central government, they can talk in those languages in Hindi or English, or they have been given options basically. Okay. Then we have an Official Languages Act 1963, which says that central government's work has to be done in Hindi, and that work will be monitored by a committee, a parliamentary committee according to this particular act, 30-member committee. So hota kya hai? Mostly in central government departments, the work is done in Hindi. Now, if you have seen any central government department letter, you will realize how it is done in Hindi, right? This is where bureaucracy's ingenuity works. So this thing which is called header of a letter, right? This header is always in Hindi. ऊपर लिखा होगा भारत सरकार, ऑफिस ऑफ द जो भी लिखा होगा तो ना फलाना दिमाग का ऑफिस या फिर मंत्रालय ऐसा कुछ लिखा होगा कार्यालय. लास्ट में the signature that will also be in Hindi, right? So two things will be in Hindi. Number one, you have the header in Hindi, and number two, you have the sign in Hindi. Whatever is written in English, but it is considered in Hindi. That is the technical thing, right? So anyways, this is how Hindi is being promoted by Government of India. Now, what about other languages? कुछ उनको भी मिलना चाहिए ना भाई, हिंदी इंग्लिश बात कर करके थक गए, ठीक है? तो आर्टिकल 350A में they have talked about mother tongue in primary stage, that is in schools in primary stage. For linguistic minorities, mother tongue would be used for instruction, okay, so that they do not have to forget their mother tongue, do not have to study in other languages. Lastly, the 8th schedule of Indian Constitution, which is very important. Now, let me clarify one thing here. Many people say that India has 22 official languages. That is simply not true. As I told you, there is only one official language, that is Hindi, right? So in the Constitution, it was written that after 15 years of the Constitution, that is from 1965, they will have exclusively Hindi used. But in 1960s, there were big protests in Tamil Nadu. Ultimately, they said, okay, fine, we'll give you the option. If you want, you can follow Hindi. If you do not want, I mean, it's up to you. You can continue using English or whatever you want to use. So basically, currently there is one official language, Hindi, but until that is accepted by everybody, we continue to work in English. There are no 22 official languages. Many people fall into this propaganda, especially Tamil people. I'll advise you not to fall for this, because legally that is wrong, technically that is wrong. Okay, these 22 languages are actually scheduled languages because they are in the schedule. Now they can be used for official business purpose. Government of India doesn't use them, but it gives you the option. For example, the UPSC civil services exam happens in all these languages. It also offers these languages as options. You have to take one mandatory Indian language paper. So you can take any of these 22 languages, Santhali, Maithili, or whatever. You can take literature of those languages as your optional paper also. This is just an example. Many papers are conducted in these languages. Okay. 1967, Sindhi was included. Now these 22 languages, originally there were only 14. Okay. 67 Sindhi was included, 1992 Konkani, Manipuri and Nepali were added, 2003 Bodo, Dogri, Maithili and Santhali. Santhali was the last language added in the constitution in the scheduled languages. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.